I'm reading a little bit out of Megan McKenna's book on Lent. She's talking about the reading that you're going to hear Brenda share with you in just a moment or two. This story of Jesus being tested in the desert is a model for all Christians who will more consciously deal with temptations, sin, and evil, and choices in regard to these issues in the next 6 weeks. It's an example of behavior that shows us how to resist, how to choose rightly, how to become again the children of God. Mic drop. Okay. Jesus and Satan interpret Scripture in vastly different ways. Satan, the word means the hinderer, is anyone, anything, any interpretation of reality or religion, any relationship or situation or philosophy that hinders us from being the children of God, from sharing in the breath of God, life itself, or hinders others from recognizing that life within us.
The reading for today is in Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Then Jesus was led into the desert by the Spirit to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus was hungry. Then the tempter approached and said, If you are the only begotten, command these stones to turn into bread. Jesus replied, Scripture has it, we live not on bread alone, but on every utterance that comes from the mouth of God. Next, the devil took Jesus to the holy city, set him on the parapet of the temple, and said, If you are the only begotten, throw yourself down. Scripture has it, God will let the angels to take care of you. With their hands they will support you, that you may never stumble on a stone. Jesus answered, Scripture also says, do not put God to the test. The devil then took Jesus up a very high mountain and displayed all the denominations of the world, or dominions of the world, in their magnificence, promising, all these I will give you if you fall down and worship me. At this, Jesus said to the devil, Away with you, Satan. Scripture says you will worship the Most High God. God alone will you adore. At that, the devil left, and angels came and attended Jesus. Here ends the reading.
Allow me to introduce myself. Or would you prefer to guess my name? Let me give you a few clues. You can find me in just about every culture in the world. I am in sacred scripture. I have had amazing paintings made of me. I have had grand books written about me. Dante, thank you very much for your marketing. I have had sports teams named after me. Songs sung about me. I have been leading roles in movies and television shows. I have taken many forms. I have been a man, a woman. I have been red, blue, had horns, a tail, hooves, a pitchfork. As if Hades could have one, certainly I could have one too. I have been a dragon, a sea serpent, a snake. I have been a demon, a fallen angel. I have been utterly gorgeous and utterly grotesque. I am slick and sleek and sneaky and cunning. I lie and I lie and I lie. I am the mistress or the master of deception. and illusion. I put myself above, care about myself more than anyone else. No, wait, let me revise that. I don't really care about anybody else at all. Have you figured out who I am? And what is my name? What else is my name?
Anastopoulos.
Devil. What was that, Michael? You know me well.
Oh.
Apparently, you know a name that few others know.
It's a really good brew, that's why.
A really good brew, of course it is.
Anastopoulos.
Mephistopheles. What else? Beelzebub. Lucifer. The Prince of the Air. Oh, I like that one. The Prince of Darkness. Why am I not ever the princess of anything? The Temptress. Absolutely. So I have many names, and those are just in English. I have gotten around. The really interesting truth beneath all of this is that in reality, I am merely the personification of that which is in you. I am the scapegoat for every mistake that you make, for every hurtful action or hurtful word. I am the excuse behind so many yanked ponytails and fired guns. I am the dark side of your ego. The side that feeds on bitterness and hatred and selfishness and anger and fear. I love it when all of those run amok in your heads. And it's just part of being human. No one's perfect. Not you. Not your pastor, not your doctors, or your car mechanics, or your saints, or even Sue Perry. Though she's a tough one to crack. You're not perfect, and so occasionally you listen to that little dark side of your ego that you like to call the devil sitting on your shoulder. The disciples weren't perfect either. They occasionally listened to that soft, seductive, egoic voice in their head. Do you remember James and John, how they kind of put their ambition in front of everybody else's? They caught Jesus and said, Jesus, we want to sit at your right and left hand when you come into your glory. And Peter always thought he knew best. He always had all the answers. He knew better than Jesus. They argued all the time. And then he let his fear get the best of him. Fear for his own life. And in Jesus' last hours, Peter denied him 3 times. And then there was Judas. Enough said. Let's talk about Jesus. Because I heard the reading that Brenda gave a little while ago. That scripture reading of Jesus spending 40 days in the wilderness and being tempted by the devil. spent 40 days struggling with his calling. His calling that was leading him to go into the world and call some people accountable and responsible for their actions, for the way they were treating others, for the way they let their egos take control. Have you ever been the messenger? Something you didn't want to share? Do you ever know that someone was going to take something you had to tell them really not well at all? And that's the situation he was in. He knew the message that was in his heart that the Spirit had given to him was going to make a whole lot of people really, really angry. And probably make his life a whole lot shorter. And so here he is after 40 days in the wilderness. And you know, as the writers are writing this, it's a whole lot easier, and really it makes a whole lot better story. If you've got some bad influence to blame your temptations on. The writers wanted to make Jesus seem as perfect and as powerful as they could. And so it made perfect sense that they invented a supernatural evil being, aka me, to spar with him. But you humans, if you have no other weakness, it's being hungry and tired. Have you ever seen your pastor hungry and tired? Because it ain't pretty. And so here's Jesus after 40 days of fasting, 40 days sleeping on rocks, sleeping, and he's hangry. Might have been the original hangry before anybody else. And so in that weakness, in that weak place, he lets that little voice in the back of his mind speak to him. And that little voice says, really? You're supposed to take this message to the world. You have the power given to you by God to share this message, and you're out here hungry and tired? Let's see just how powerful you are, that little voice said. Take those stones and just turn them into bread. We can just eat a little bit. Nobody will know. But Jesus draws on his good Jewish boy training. And he remembers what was probably taught to him at age 5. That we do not live on bread alone, but by the utterance of the mouth of God. Every word that God utters is what we live by. So you see how important it is to drill things into the heads of your young children. There's a bad side to that too, but we'll get to that another time. So he held firm. And then he drifted off into a sleep. And he dreamt. Scripture doesn't say he dreamt, but seriously, suddenly they're on top of the temple in Jerusalem. He dreamt. Dreamt they were up on top of the temple, he and the devil. And they're looking down at the courtyard and all the people. And the devil says, chosen one, huh? The devil, a.k.a. ego, sneaky, and cunning. You're the chosen one, huh? Maybe we should make sure of that. We should just jump off. Jump off. The scripture says that God's angels will take care of you. But even in dreamland, Jesus was pretty tough, pretty strong. And he said, no, scripture says you shall not test God. After he woke up, he decided maybe he'd take himself up a mountainside for a little while. You know, the ancients went up there to get closer to God. And so Jesus walked up the mountainside and he's looking out and he's seeing this great landscape, and oh my gosh, you see for miles and miles and miles, and that little voice in the back of his head started uttering things unbidden, aka ego being sneaky and cunning. And that little voice says, you can have all of this. As far as your eye can see, it can be yours if you will just forget about this darn God stuff. You just let that go. Forget about loving other people. Put yourself first for once, Jesus. You've got the intelligence. You've got the power. This could all be yours. And he thought about it for a minute or two. And then he stood firm. And he gave a name to that dark side of his ego, and he said, away with you, Satan. You will worship God the Most High. God alone will you adore. And after that third time, after his third threshold at temptation, he was finally at peace. Those thresholds of temptation. We've all got them, don't we? Or maybe you don't want to admit it. But I've seen your coffee hour every Sunday. And I know that some of you take more than you should. More than your doctors say is healthy for you. You know about temptation, don't you? What else tempts you? What other thresholds of temptation do you find yourself on? Are you willing to admit to them? Are you willing to name them? I've heard some of you on the road when other drivers cut you off or drive too slow. I know what happens when you get hangry, because none of us is perfect, are we, Jim? Yeah. So your pastor sent me to preach to you so I could give you a few pointers on how to deal with these temptations. But that's where she made her first mistake. Because I like it when you are on the threshold of temptation. I like it when you let your anger and your selfishness and your insecurities and your fear take hold of you and do crazy things with your head. There's power in that. I like it when you use that to take control, because by golly, you all deserve to be in control. You deserve to have everything you want just the way you want it. Now, don't you? Don't let that mamby-pamby God voice deep inside you get out. Because you know what happens when you listen to that voice. You start helping other people. You start being generous and giving things away. You start being nice to those people who cut you off on the road. Boy, if you let that unconditionally loving God out of the closet that you've got her locked in your basement, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be kind and non-judgmental and accepting. And what fun is that really? Just saying. So if you want to go do all that, if you want to follow Jesus' lead, his bleeding heart lead, if you want to follow that, you go ahead. But don't come crying to me when the world's not fair. Because I warned you. And I'm not going to help you at that point. You'll be standing on your own 2 feet with your own bleeding heart. So the choice is yours. Which way are you going to go? When you find that threshold of temptation in front of you. I only got 2 words for you, and that's good luck. Because I'll be rooting for you.